Hello, my name is Georgiana Julia Crescescu, and I'm leading How You Can Become a Leader initiative. This initiative focuses on a number of video interviews that I'm recording in order to help others from the Microfocus Now OpenText organization to motivate them and understand their strengths in order to become as well leaders in their roles or in the organization. Today, I have on the line Britton, who is actually supporting me and who will be providing a very good overview under the leadership perspective. Hi, Derek.
Hi there.
Happy to have you on the line. I'm fine, thanks. What about yourself?
Yeah, very well. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks for having me.
It's lovely to have you on the line, and I'm looking as well forward to understand a bit as well your perspective about leadership. So having that said, Derek, maybe we start with a very quick intro about yourself. So can you share with us a bit more about your yourself, about passions, about career, whatever you want to share with us today? It will be lovely. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for having me on. Great initiative. Really good idea. So I've been at my career at Microfocus started a long time ago, 1989. So don't do the maths because you might then try and guess my age. I live in the UK. And I work in the marketing organization of OpenText now. And I've pretty much come through the ranks and spent most of my career in the OpenText family, let's call it that. Yeah, very happy to be on the show and talk about leadership.
Thanks, Derek. And having that said, Derek, what can you actually tell us about leadership? So what's leadership for you? Can you share a bit more based on your knowledges and as well based on your years of experience that you have in here?
Well, what's leadership? It's a good question. And I think what I'll do is I'll cheat here and I'll quote someone else because I think leadership is the topic of quite a lot of definition, a lot of discussions, and some very smart people. So I think the first one is a guy called John Maxwell, who's been a leadership trainer for years and years. And if you read up on the subject, he's at the top of most people's recommended readership lists. And he put it really well when he said a leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. And those three things are equally important. So knows the way sort of means they have a plan, they have a strategy, they have a vision. Goes the way is leading by example, executing and developing others around them. And then shows the way is sort of encouraging, supporting, probably moving rocks out of the road, but absolutely providing a clear path for everybody around them. And what I like about that is it talks about action, but it talks about belief as well. And what it doesn't say anything about hierarchy. It doesn't say anything about line management. It's not about being in charge. And in fact, another leadership guru, a guy called Ken Blanchard, sort of summed it up even better. He said, effective leadership is about influence, not authority. And I think that's crucial.
Yeah, indeed. So very nice overview, Derek, and I'm happy that you have actually mentioned as well two of the most important writers, right, when it comes up to the leadership topic, right? So it's very good as well to have this kind of things when it comes up to the leadership part, right? And then on the other side, one of the things that I have as well in mind, right? Because I have as well a mentor who helps me as well to become a better leader from a day to another. I think that it's as well a way how to follow others, right, that are actually doing things in the right way. So based on the fact that you shared with us what's leadership as well from your perspective, right, what can you tell us about your leadership styles and how you lead others?
Okay. Well, like I say, I've been in the company quite a long time, so I've been lucky enough to work in many different functions, many different groups in my career. And the only thing they all have in common is I don't ever remember being the smartest person in the room. So for me, the key ingredient was to ensure that the value of everybody was being harnessed and developed and listened to. As such, while the plan and the vision is critical in leadership, and it really is, but the ability to collaborate and discuss and debate and reach consensus is also hugely important. And that means trust, it means teamwork, and that's absolutely critical to me personally. And so in an industry like the one we're in, where things are constantly changing, and they're moving very, very fast, we have to communicate regularly. And we have to accept that that change is constant and it's going on all the time. So staying in touch with people is critical, and being happy to develop and change your ideas. And as part of that, I think that human connection, treating people in the right way, not as cogs in the wheel, but as people with valid opinions which may evolve, I think it's hugely, hugely important. So you come to one of my regular team meetings, you'll notice they're very informal, or they're informal enough to allow people to connect with each other as people before we dive into any of the necessary details.
Yeah, so I have seen that as well, Derek, from the regular calls and the meetings that you're actually leading. But on the other side, what motivated you to step up and become a leader in the organization? Because I have identified you as a strong leader there, right? So I want actually to understand a bit what was your motivation here?
Well, as they say, necessity is the mother of invention. But I started off all those years ago as a software engineer. That's what I was employed to do originally, and we were in a department that was growing rapidly. We were building a number of tailored products for individual clients, and the deliveries were many and varied, and they needed a lot of coordinating. We needed someone to look after that, but of course we had basically a room full of very, very smart, hardcore technicians who were great at coding, great at getting technology built, but there wasn't an obvious person to sort of coordinate and bring it all together. So I volunteered to help with that, just to sort of get stuff done, really. And that sort of slowly evolved to a more sort of kind of project coordinator type role, which I was doing for my teammates, but it was sort of unofficial, largely speaking. But that's how it all started. And it was then helping influence and cajole and persuade and then share information and communicate with others. Kind of necessary parts of everyone's day job, but I was just centralizing the task for the rest of the team. It was only after this that I was given any sort of line management responsibilities. So I think what's interesting is that my leadership career kind of started out purely as an influence gig. I wasn't in charge of anything. I was just influencing others, which I think is a bit of a lesson. You don't need a promotion to be a leader. You just need a situation that needs leading.
Yeah,
So that's how it all
so
started out for me.
So actually taking the initiative, Derek. So whenever you have an opportunity, right, to be there and take the responsibility and say, yeah, I'm the right person. I want actually to do that. So I think that this is actually quite inspiring for people because sometimes, right, maybe you tend to lose your motivation, and you need actually to know how to find your motivation and how to be there present and doing things at the right time. On the other side, Derek, I'm actually quite curious to understand a bit more how can men support women grow in the organization, right? Even if we are talking about our organization or other organizations, right? Because you have seen that there is actually this topic all over the world, right? That companies are actually looking as well to have women leaders in the organizations, right? And to grow those specific numbers. So what can you actually tell us about how men can support women growing in the organizations?
Right. Okay. Well, I did last year. I did a bit of research with one of my mentees who happens to be female on this very topic. You know, the gender disparity in the tech industry. I must admit, I was quite shocked at how low the stats remained for gender parity and the number of other diversity challenges that still remain. I also read about some kind of worrying stats that said that white males felt concerned, that they felt, you know, they were somehow part of the problem. It's not certainly how I would characterize it personally, but it was interesting reading. So in both cases, you know, I felt that was a situation that certainly needed changing, and I scoped out my own perspective. I did some research and I took a view on it, and I discussed that with my mentee and asked for her input. It was basically a reverse mentoring exercise because, you know, she knew better than I did about this topic, and it explored sort of also how mentorship across diversity boundaries, across gender boundaries, can and does, we thought, encourage the development of diverse groups. But it also puts the white male element in the tent, you know, not outside it, as part of a framework for that growth and for that change. And our view was that, you know, greater diversity was going to yield a higher performing talent pool overall, and that mentorship, which is a fairly established process for generating new talent and new leadership, would be a good framework to support it. So we wrote all of that up and we presented that at a couple of conferences. And if anyone wants to read up on kind of what perspectives we came up with, I actually wrote it up and published it on LinkedIn. So it's on my profile on LinkedIn if you want to read about it.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed the article, Derek. So I was actually reading it, and I was actually inspired as well by the information and by the content that you have provided in there. So yeah, very useful article. So I really advise everyone to take some time and read the article. So Derek, on the other side, when it comes up to the job, have you ever been afraid doing your job?
Have I ever been afraid?
Yeah.
Yeah, many times, categorically so. Yeah, I mean, all the time. You know, often during times of sort of major change, major upheaval, and you know, many of us in OpenText and previously Micro Focus, we've been through significant upheaval several times over. So we can all remember the moments where we were thinking, "Goodness me." And I've had several different roles at Micro Focus, and then Merrent, and then Micro Focus again, and now OpenText, of course. I've been a contractor, an engineer, a product manager, pre-sales technician, a marketer, a sales enablement guy. And each change is jumping into a new pool full of experts. You know, they've got the experience, they've got the expertise, they know how things get done, they know where the bodies are buried. They know more than I do. And it's, you know, every time it would be very easy to think, I'm out of my depth. I don't belong here. I'm not good enough. This is this thing called an imposter syndrome, of course. And accepting that imposter syndrome exists is actually quite a good way to treat it. You know, just point at it and say, yes, this is what I'm feeling. But it's actually, it's an incorrect feeling, because you have every right to be there. Otherwise you wouldn't be given the job in the first place. And everyone's learning every day. So even if you've been doing something for a very long time, there's still things to learn. So no one is the expert that knows more than everybody else. It doesn't work like that, and it's never fixed. It's always dynamic. It's natural to have the concern, though, because it drives development, it drives learning. And the trick, I think, is there's a book that says this, is to feel that fear and do it anyway. Don't let the fear stop you from progressing. And there's a great book that I read not too long ago called The Leadership Gap, written by a lady called Lolly Daskell, another leadership guru. She's excellent. And it's got a fantastic chapter on handling, practical steps to handle imposter syndrome. Because many of us feel it, some of us acknowledge it, some of us pretend it's not there. But it happens more than we realize, and it's being able to deal with it on an ongoing basis is part of what a leader has to do. It's part of what we all have to do, very frankly. So yes, I've been afraid a million times, but that's okay because it's completely natural.
Yeah, yeah, that's really true, Derek. And I think that everyone is actually at the point, right, afraid doing some things, right, or some regular tasks that we are actually handling. But nevertheless, it's as well good to find the balance, right? How to move ahead through to that specific situation. And Derek, for you, I have one more question actually for today, which is more related to the way how do you balance your career, personal life, and passions. Do you think that there is such a thing as a balance? How do you manage it there on yourself?
Well, there is such a thing, and there must be such a thing as balance, because family and personal time must be equally important, if not more so, than your day job. And managing that is therefore very important. I would argue that during the pandemic, when things like the physical boundary between home life and work life, they were eroded or blurred. There was no clear line of the commute to work to denote where you were in your day. That eroded further during that time. So you need that discipline. You need to be very disciplined about what you happen to be doing at any given point in the day. Are you working or are you not working? What are you doing? So you need to be clear on your start times, actually, and compartmentalize your day if you possibly can, while allowing whatever flexibility that your role requires. But like our lives sort of outside of work, most of the difficulties I see in achieving that are about prioritization and not balance. And priorities, especially at work, will mean people that they'll sometimes make themselves, and we've all been through it, a little bit overwhelmed with the amount of work that they have to do in a given period or on a given day. And that eats into their personal life. And maybe, 1 or 2 days you can allow for that, but, over a protracted period of time, you can't. And most of that is priority management, deciding what to do, but crucially also deciding what doesn't need to happen and finding other ways of dealing with it. And I know some people, they talk about how busy they are, like some sort of badge of honor. Look at me, how busy I am. That must make me really important. Well, yes, but it's counterproductive over time. If you are running on empty, as I would call it, you're going to overlook things. The work will suffer, and you may end up, of course, resenting the situation. And you don't want resentment, and you don't want burnout in the workplace, because it's not a positive thing. It's not a productive thing either for the person or for their team or the organization. And the trick with all aspects of life, of course, is to enjoy what you're doing, not to endure it. And there's a huge difference between those two things. So for me personally, and you asked about how I do it, well, I work nearly exclusively with colleagues in North America, in the US and Canada. So I tend to work later into my day to accommodate the time zones. accommodate the differences. But there are some days in the week, for example, where I have evening commitments, family commitments or personal commitments. So, they matter to me. So they are no fly zones in terms of work time. There are times that I just can't do a call. It means I can protect what matters to me, but also being relatively flexible on other days where I don't have any such commitments. So we all have our non-negotiables, and I think every one of us does. The trick is to ensure that that's clear, and that the rest of the time that you can commit to being as flexible as you need to be. So I think you just have to have that discipline. You have to be able to prioritize, but all of those things are possible if you if you set out what your day needs to look like ahead of time. The trick is not to let the day happen to you. Actually plan your day so that you know what you're going to do before it starts.
Yeah, so thanks a lot, Derek, for this feedback. I think that it was actually a very inspiring one for everyone for today, and I hope that we were able to motivate as well young people or older people, right, in the organization to become leaders in what they are actually doing, even if they are actually managers or they are not managers, right? So I'm looking forward to see as well some feedback coming out from the organization. But nevertheless, Derek, I'm happy that we had the chance actually to record this session today. It was actually inspiring for me, right? So I've learned a lot from the experience that you have described a bit earlier. And I really want to say a big thank you to you being part of this initiative and supporting me as well under the initiative.
Oh, it's absolutely a pleasure. Remember, I'm only talking to you now because, many years ago, someone said, we have a situation, who can help figure this out? And, I just happened to be there in the right time. So this is all organic. This is all just happens. And those situations happen all of the time. So every single one of us is either a leader or a leader in waiting, because, that this is the life and this happens all the time. So, hopefully the example is just there to say that this, this is everybody, and everybody can experience this.
Yeah, so hope that everyone can really experience this as well. So thanks a lot, Derek, again, and stay tuned. A new episode will be actually released soon. So take care there, Derek, and talk to you soon.
All right, take care. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.